Did I click it? Oh, I didn't. That would that would help. Oh, it's not like this didn't pop up. Or maybe I did. Oh, there it is. Oh, well, welcome on
There it
and
is.
welcome all to the greatest show of them all. We are a little bit late this week, but it is the NFC East Mixtape Volume 182. It is Friday, January 2nd, 2026, which means we owe all of you a Happy New Year. Brandon Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation, RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys, BLG, Happy New Year to you, your family, your friends, all those around you, and all the people who will ever come into your orbit. I hope 2026 is good to you.
I can't believe you said these words before the podcast started. You're really on one, as I can see that you are recovering from being sick. Why don't you set the stage for people here? Because we were supposed to do this on Tuesday, and we're doing it now on Friday.
Right. So you want me to set the stage? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, we were supposed to do it on Tuesday. We had plans to do it on Tuesday. It wasn't ducking anything. In fact, the Cowboys won last week. I caught what I thought, and I think I called it this to a lot of people. Maybe I told you this way too. I was calling it a Christmas cold. And I actually said this in a video I did for our channel earlier today on Friday. This happened to line up obviously in the week between Christmas and New Year's, and I saw a lot of like TikToks that were, having fun about the week that obviously is every year and how time just kind of feels all the same and whatever. But this cold has lasted. If you ever get a cold and you're like, oh, this will be gone in a day or this will be gone in 2 days. Like I was telling my wife that the last 2 mornings I've been like, I can't believe and she's sick. Like it started with our son. He's 4. He's feeling better. Thank God. But my mom got sick. So like, it just kind of infiltrated all of us. I do feel much better. Occasional cough, occasional need to blow my nose, whatever. TMI. I don't care. Which is part of the stage setting. But so yeah, I had a little bit of a cough, which is why I sound this way. And so today, Friday, I kind of ate some solid food for the first time, like a big meal. And I was telling you that I had a pizza and
an entire pizza.
Yeah, I actually also, in addition to delaying the day we did this, I inadvertently scheduled this for 1 when we had agreed upon 11. So Brandon has been super awesome all week. And so you're like, cool. And I said, great, because I'm gonna have this pizza for lunch. And I ate the whole thing because I hadn't, like when you're sick and you just kind of, you've only eaten soup or haven't had a lot of meals, whatever. So I finally just like ate a ton of food. I ate this whole pizza, and I felt right now that was like 30 seconds ago. I feel amazing. I feel like I could levitate. Like I feel, I just feel really happy. Like I'm so full of life right now. Happy New Year to everyone. I feel fantastic.
Amazing start. I love the energy. You did say like, obviously in jest, but you're like, I hope the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Like that's the level of just I
was trying to convey like my
how on top of the world do you feel?
I actually saw this as a sermon once, so I believe it to be applicable in that sense. But somebody was saying that you should live your life in a manner that is unoffendable and unembarrassable. And that's how I feel right now. I feel like the peak version of that. Like nothing could possibly offend me or embarrass me ever again. Like that's how I feel at this exact moment.
A very tough endeavor as a Dallas Cowboys fan.
That's true. Well, maybe I've just developed immunity. No pun intended. Your dad, Mr. Gowton, says Happy New Year, Brandon and RJ. God bless. Happy New Year to you, Mr. G and Mrs. G. Of course, happy belated birthday to Mrs. G. Happy New Year to Eagles Girl 52. I'm just gonna say maybe you need to update the bio, because it was, 52 was the username. 52 was the thing. Like now, maybe it's Eagles Girl 52 and 59. Maybe it's a comp like Eagles Girl 111. Like you combine the two. Maybe it's the difference of them. I don't know, but just a suggestion from me. Christopher Brandon says, glad to watch live. I've had to catch it after the stream for a while. Happy New Year. Go Birds. There are other bird mascots in the NFL for what it's worth. And then Eagles Girl did apologize that she could not make the Philly special meetup. That she came down with the flu and didn't want to greet people while coughing up a lung, and then she added snot bubbles.
That's the right move. Appreciate that, Eagles Girl. I mean, yeah, I got really sick last year around this time, like right after the Eagles Week 17 game, leading up to Week 18. I think it was really the first time since I had started writing about the Eagles for BGN in 2013 where I couldn't even like type on my computer. Like I was so sick, like I couldn't even think. Like I had to stay in bed all day. Like I couldn't even think straight. So sorry to hear that you were feeling pretty bad. And my friends Holden and Elizabeth often mentioned on the show they've been pretty down bad for a bit here. It's just one of those things that seems to be going around, and this time of year. I guess my time was last year, not this year, so I'm thankful for that because it was so miserable last year. I do want to give a shout out, by the way, speaking of the meetup, to the people who did attend and specifically shouted out the mixtape at that event. So shout out to all those good people that came to Chickies and Pete's for the Ringers Philly Special podcast meetup with Shil Kapadia, Cliff, and everyone who was there. It was a really great time. Rachel came too. She got to see some of the. Rachel didn't fully understand the sicko level of some of these passionate Eagles fans.
The offensive and out to embarrass nature of Eagles fans, right?
I mean, no. I mean, in terms of just in sheer dedication to a level that she was just I didn't realize this. So that was really fun for me to expose her to that, and then her to get to see that. But yeah, a lot of great people, new faces, old faces. Glad to see everyone. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Great.
I'm glad so many people got to see your 6'5" frame. And I saw Sheil, actually right before we started doing this, I saw a TikTok from the Ringer NFL show with a petition of his to change the NFL draft. Has he explained this to you, or did you hear this?
I saw I saw his Instagram story, but it cut off right before he got to I just saw the tease of that.
I don't know if this was said in jest or fun, but he the TikTok at least showed him saying that he believes the NFL draft, the entire first round, every team should get a day. Like each round should last 24 hours effectively. And then there's a prime time, announcement of the pick, but we get an entire day to discuss and analyze what each pick was in the first round specifically. And obviously you also have 24 hours, approximately, to trade or adjust or move out or whatever. I think there's merit to the idea. I would get very exhausted, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, that does sound. I already think it's a little too dragged out and long. So,
do you want to do resolutions before the show or after the show with songs?
Well, my mom did text me to say happy birthday as well. Or thank you for the happy birthday, which is rather. Sorry.
She also commented and said,
well, there you go as well.
Yeah, and she thanked us for the birthday. Thanked me for the birthday.
Okay,
wishes. I imagine already thanks you for the birthday wishes. But
yeah,
but yeah,
resolutions. I don't really think I have any. Do you have any?
I have really cliche ones that aren't really resolutions, just personal goals. I do want to read more. And
I don't think you need to downplay. I'm not saying to you. I'm saying in general. I think people get down oh, resolution silly. It's I don't know. It doesn't have to be. If you want it to not to be, it could. Well,
I finished reading Project Hail Mary, and that was great. I'm super excited for the movie. But I want to read more regularly. It doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but I love reading. I want to do that more. I also want to, do simple things, not procrastinate them and just knock them out. Take care.
That's a good one.
I have an eye appointment next week. In the past I might have delayed that. You know what I mean? Just go to.
I'm really bad at that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so hard to schedule something, and then I don't know. It's just, especially because of the way we live. I think it's fair for me to say that we're so conquer the day focused of what we do specifically for our jobs that it's at least for me, I feel it can be a little bit hard to lose track of the bigger picture sometimes.
It does also. Things happen at an inconvenient time, and you're always oh, well, now I have to be here, and I can't leave now because this could happen or whatever. Right. Next week, I think my eye appointment is actually Monday or Tuesday, and we'll get to this, but the Cowboys could fire their defensive coordinator. They could be looking for a new defensive coordinator, whatever. And so it's an inconvenient time to have an eye appointment is my point. But my general resolution is to just figure out a way to get those things done as best as I can. Also, C. Bland asks if we are back. We've been doing this literally for over a year now. We started it back up in 2025. YouTube only. We have fought the good fight and continued to from a podcast perspective. But this is the only way we can mixtape from, for now.
I just was reading the chat, and Tordo26 put, Brandon, just admit Eagles girl is your girlfriend. I mean, unless Rachel's doing something that I don't know about, I believe that's not the case.
Okay, let's get to the NFC East. Do we want to recap last week's games? I feel like that's kind of silly at this point.
I'll say real quick on the Philadelphia Eagles that it just feels like winning should feel a little bit more joyous than it does when you go into Buffalo and you beat Josh Allen and the Bills. But it's just to go up 13-0 and and then to try to just kind of like bleed out the clock in the second half where they didn't complete a pass. And that is the second time this year that's happened for the
I saw
Eagles.
you had some awesome tweets about this.
And they're 2-0 in those games, which is like, it's so stupid. It's so results over process. I hate it from a standpoint of like, this isn't the takeaway should not be this is a great way to win football game. No, it's a very dumb way. It worked, yeah, but that's not because of the strategy is smart. Obviously, if Josh Allen makes a better throw in that 2-point conversion, the Eagles lose the game most likely. If Jalen Carter doesn't block an extra point, which like he's good at that, sure, but like you can't count on that. He's not going to do it most times. That's not a sustainable way to win. It's not a good way to win. It's so infuriating from a standpoint of this defense is so awesome. This defense, as Jeffrey Lurie called them, is a Super Bowl caliber defense. Like that defense is a defense you can win the Super Bowl with. I don't think anyone would argue otherwise. Have they had bad games this year? Yeah, they have. Absolutely. But those are more few and far between.
Cowboys, Dak Prescott, their daddy.
I wouldn't say that was a horrible game for them as much as that is a horrible game for the team as a whole, in part because the offense couldn't do anything in the second half. And then that puts all the pressure on the defense to do literally everything. And it's like, can the offense actually sustain a drive? That would really help and this kind of just adds to my point here. It's just so unfair for this defense where they just have to carry the entire weight of the team and the offense. And it's not even just because the offense is so inept and they can't do anything and they're just so hopeless, because they had a really good touchdown drive in the first half and they did some really good things in the first half. It's just once again like all too conservative approach where it's just like, don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. That's all that matters. We can go 3 and out a billion times. Just don't turn the ball over. And it's so gutless. And I just hate it from the coach who insists on playing this specific brand of football because it so lacks ambition to me. So they won. And it's like, I feel like I should be more happy about it. Maybe the offense has another gear in the playoffs. Everyone seems to be kind of banking on that.
They're saving the good place. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I will believe that when I see it. I believe in this defense. I think the defense is great. I think Jalen Hurts could show up in some big games as we talked about. Like, I believe in that. But overall, like, it's great they got the win. They're in a position here where they enter week 18 with a chance to get the 2 seed. Not necessarily likely, but possible. So that's a big win to just even have a chance at getting that, which would be very big because they would be able to host the Packers again as the 2 seed, playing the 7 seed. The Packers who might enter the playoffs, by the way, on a 4-game losing streak. Right. So I'm okay with where I stand at the Eagles right now. I'm feeling like okay to good, but not great.
So I have 2 things to say. The first one is a positive in my intent. It's going to sound negative though. The second is a negative, but it's really just kind of having fun. And I don't actually really mean it, in any other, like any kind of serious way. So the positive is, and it sounds negative because I stand by the fact that I believe that, and this, in my belief has been spearheaded by Nick Sirianni over the era, that the Eagles have identified and mastered market inefficiencies. That's how I've been labeling this for a while now, and just finding the inches and stacking them up in a way that leads to wins. I agree that you should not, only and simply and obtusely look at the wins and say, oh, well, whatever, blah, blah, because it's not sustainable, except they're sort of proving that it is somewhat sustainable. It's what makes it a weird, dichotomous sort of argument. Again, sustainability might not be the best way to label it, but again, the point kind of stands. I also think like every time I want to give this man some benefit of the doubt, and I feel like I'm the only person, and I'm not even an Eagles fan who's willing to do it. He just acts like it's like his like sole mission is to be the most obnoxious person ever. And I don't know. I mean, I want to give him objectively credit because I do think he has mastered the market inefficiency.
Like what? Though? What do you mean when you say that?
I don't know what it is, but like I think no. But like I've brought it before. I do think the tush push was an example of that, an example of identifying what if we do it this way. You know what I mean? And we can again. I'm not saying that whoever sat down and designed it, was like it will be unstoppable, until it becomes officiated and blah blah blah. But my point is, I think that they have identified game plans and ways to do things that more often than not, and not even like 51% over 49% more often than not, like we're talking like 80% over 20% more often than not, win out. And you're right. And everyone is right that if Josh Allen makes a better throw, that's not how he puts the pen. I just noticed that you did that, by the way. I know you're not wearing a visor, so you can't do it.
I was waiting for you to say something.
It would work better on your glasses,
Yeah.
I think, like to be Nick. But and the irony is that Brian Schottenheimer does that now, which is just a real bad look.
That's why you love him.
For me. But anyway, so I give him credit in a weird way for finding that. Like, it's kind of like when you would take a test and you knew you did not like know enough to get an A on it or whatever, and you knew, okay, I can just do these 4 problems and I can get these 4 problems right and pass the class, right? For a lack of a better way to put it. I recognize that like passing the class is not the goal here, but in my analogy, you don't have to know 100% of the material to accomplish the goal that you have defined, which is to pass the class. And so I think they have focused, to live in my arbitrary analogy here, on those 4 problems, and they have mastered them. And some of that involves benefiting from luck, again, like Josh Allen missing a 2-point conversion here. But some of it also involves creating your own luck, like Jalen Carter blocking an extra point, which you said he's very good at. Like, I would imagine that was part of the reason for drafting him, was he was somebody who could do that, who could exploit that, who could help solve that problem. But it's a weird thing to be dependent on. I completely agree with that. That was my positive thing.
Well, it's cost them this year at times. You mentioned the second Cowboys game, the Broncos game. The Eagles was it 17-0 in that one? Like, they've been up in these games, and it has come back to bite them, in part because like they're just like, oh, we can just try to run it out from halftime. You can't. You have to keep trying to win the game. You can't.
I agree. I agree with you entirely. I agree with you entirely. I'm just saying, like, if at some point you are beginning a new regime in the NFL, to talk obviously about what we're talking about, and you say we can do things according to plan X, or we can do things according to plan Y, right? There are pros and cons to each plan. And the Eagles have chosen plan X, and it has led to a world championship and a near second one, right? And if they were more stylistic, if they were prettier, you know what I mean? Like, would it be? And I know that's not the argument. I'm not trying to put words in your or anyone's mouth, but like, and I'm not picking on Eagles Girl 52, who established that she is not Rachel, by the way, in the comments, just to keep track of the lore drama around here. But so Eagles Girl said, I think the tush push was a great play, but it's contributed to the O-line being ground down over the last couple of years. Maybe. Okay, so I agree with that. But if we stick with plan X and plan Y, if plan Y did not involve the tush push and the offensive line was not as worn down, would the results be the same? Right? Like these, I think, like, all of the negatives, call them what you want, the offense failing, the offensive line, the injuries, whatever, blah, blah. I think those were part of the, gambles the people in charge were willing to take when they established this plan. And I think no matter how it ends, whenever it ends, it was worth it. You know what I mean? Like, and you can certainly say, well, I want more. I want a second Super Bowl. I want whatever. Like, and that's completely fair and rational. But my point is, it was already worth it. And that isn't like, shut up and be happy about this or anything like that. It's simply that I think that they did a great job at establishing a plan. They have done a poor job of evolving from that plan.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that you have to at some level you have to appreciate what they've done. Absolutely. I think it's also fair to say that they're leaving money on the table that they don't need to leave on the table here, potentially. Like, in terms of, this defense is so good. If this offense could just get their act together a little bit here. And I don't think it's just because of, there's a world where the Eagles are in the season that they are currently in, and it's like they could never win the Super Bowl, in part because there was so much attrition from last year's team in terms of the injuries that carried over and the way they played. And I can buy that to an extent. But like, that justification would explain to me why the offense isn't like the number one offense in the NFL. That's too much of an unreasonable expectation. Sure. But that's not what people are saying like it needs to be. They're saying, can you not be this unit that leads the NFL in 3 and outs? Like, that is insane. Like, there's no good reason for that. That defies explanation. When you have the most expensive offense in the NFL by far, how are you going 3 and out? And it can't not be related to how the coach wants to play a very certain style of football that I believe, again, you can say, like, look at the turnover differential. It works. Yes, but when we're looking at how some of this year, like, obviously, because you need to separate that from what they've done in the past, because last year was a different thing. This year, they are benefiting from a lot of one-score game luck. Like
I
that's
agree with
baked
that.
into this. So that's not like they're a genius. They cracked the code. That's more of like
No, yeah,
they
I didn't
found a
mean.
model that works, and also they've been very, very lucky, and that could also come back to bite them, especially probably in the playoffs, because at the playoffs by nature are like generally going to be more close games like that. And I ultimately come down to I think like Sirianni's conservative approach is probably going to be the reason why this season ends early and probably earlier than it should have, given the talent on this team.
I view it like a race car, and I mentioned that reading is a resolution of mine. There's a Formula One book that I read the first like 2 chapters of that I read another chapter of last night, so already sticking to it. But that being said, I think that the Eagles developed a race car that properly took advantage of certain things, right, in certain parts of different tracks and certain weather conditions and whatnot. And the field has simply also now developed those same advantages and is continuing to develop them. And they're just sticking with it because they've designed the car, like they've invested a lot of money. I agree with you. So this somewhat leads me to my other point, which is negative, but is more trolly than anything. If I have to just square the fact that the Eagles are just going to be perennially good or whatever, this is the best way for it to be the case. Now, for me, in my cope way, because I said this a lot to you, to Kist, and to John Stolness after the Eagles won their first Super Bowl, that was, I think, the worst way that you could ever win a Super Bowl because the team internally collapsed after.
You're talking about like big picture, not within the game.
Right. Yeah, like, and at the end of the day, you win the Super Bowl, so like, who cares? But like, it created.
And it was an entertaining game.
Right. But the fallout was insane because of the fact that they won the Super Bowl. Again, it was a trolley sort of take at the time. And similarly here, if this is just the way it's going to be, if the Cowboys are going to like sabotage themselves and the Eagles are going to be like the division winners all the time, whatever. Okay, cool. At least everyone thinks the Eagles offense sucks. And at least everyone recognizes that there's all these, smoke and mirrors propositions that make them who they are. They're market inefficiencies, so to speak. So that's my cope, is that the Eagles have, again, they've been sawing the woman in half for a long time, and we've all been amazed. But now we're like, well, wait a minute. They're just sawing the woman in half. You know what I mean? Like there's there's stuff in the handkerchief in their sleeve. Like, like we know all the tricks at this point. We know that they are tricks and they're not legitimate things until they obviously prove otherwise.
I guess we've talked enough about the Eagles who entered this game. I guess we'll spin it forward later. But
Okay. So the Cowboys beat the Commanders on Christmas Day. I don't think we have to talk a lot about the game. Things that have happened since then, like current moment for the Cowboys, and it's been weird because of the time of year, as noted. They have talked about how they have. Look, I'm just explaining what happened. How it is their goal to finish with a non-losing record, which a win on Sunday would achieve. They have seen the Packers lose 3 games in a row, but the most recent one did not really benefit them because the Packers had already clinched a playoff spot. Although Baltimore winning did help because Baltimore's on their heels, and so keeps them further at bay. There's recently some off the field drama with the Cowboys, which what a shock. On New Year's Day, Trayvon Diggs was released. That was the biggest thing, which I mean, there was so much made about did you see anything about the flight home and whatnot? Yeah. Okay. So for anyone who's unaware, the reports were, and the reporting was from all the local beat, that Trayvon requested to stay in Washington, D.C., to be clear, where he's from, the Maryland area, after the Christmas Day win, but that he made this request after the game when the window to do so is not proper and the time to do so is very short, and you can't make any exceptions for this because the moment you do, it becomes a big thing. And so he was requested to fly back with the team, even though he would ultimately have had to fly back. He decided to stay and defied his order, his directive, his whatever. The Cowboys cut him. The Cowboys and Trayvon Diggs were always going to go their separate ways after this season. We've been talking about that. I've been telling you that for a long time. I mean, during the team's opening press conference at training camp, Jerry Jones publicly questioned the extension that they gave him, which I stand by the fact was the proper decision at the time because it allows them to move on from him now and receive no real financial penalty, as opposed to if they had waited on Trayvon the way they have other players, they would be stuck with Trayvon, which was my point then and is still my point now. So my overall concern is that people are going to view Trayvon as this like, oh, you can't give extensions to players early, blah, blah. That's all I'm combating at this point in time. Trayvon was predictably claimed by the Green Bay Packers. He and Micah Parsons very famously close, which is obviously part of the fallout that he had with the Cowboys with regards to how they handled the Micah thing. Micah then was tweeting about this and noted on Twitter that Jerry Jones slandered his name, which is a subjective claim. And I think true to some degree, Micah did not help himself in all of that. We don't have to relitigate the situation. My only point in bringing that up is that, and I mentioned this in a video that I put out all over the place on Friday, there is a cost of playing these stupid games for the Cowboys beyond the financial cost. That the financial cost is significant and hurts you and hinders you relative to building your team. But the metaphorical cost is that you piss players off and you're going to push them away and make it difficult. And you arguably did push Micah Parsons away, even if he did act silly in his own respective way. Additionally, other stories, Troy Aikman, I'm sure you saw this. It was reported that the Miami Dolphins are going to utilize him as a consultant for their general manager search, which is awesome. Good for Troy. I'm super happy. He has we're talking like 15 years, been on record in saying he wants some sort of role. He, at one point in time, according to his own wording, wanted to be an NFL general manager. I think he's become too elite of a broadcaster to now fully, and he's a little bit older. It's a little bit different. But I mean, he could have been, and it would have been amazing for him to have been what John Elway was to the Broncos, to the Cowboys. And so I'm very happy for him individually. I think it's interesting. I don't know if I think it's super brilliant, but my point is it's pathetic that it's not happening for the Cowboys, because if the Cowboys were ever going to make an exception, and he's not even an outsider, as somebody who obviously, has only ever played for the team and is a Hall of Famer and all this stuff, but like he is the like eldest son. He's the first pick, the first draft pick, the number 1 overall pick, the quarterback, like the leader of that entire era that made them who they are today. So it's just really sad and pathetic that it's never happened to this degree with this specific team. That's kind of your 101 on what's going on.
I like this comment from Danny's Dallas Cowboys. Let's go. Why are you interviewing a Eagles fan? Not even an Eagles fan. A Eagles fan. This channel is a Dallas Cowboys channel. This is our channel and not his. That is true. It's not my channel. But the show is also literally called the NFC East Mixtape. So maybe we're talking
this show
about
also
other
is
teams than the
simulcast
Cowboys, because
on both channels.
A division podcast.
Yeah, the show lives on both channels.
Well, now an Eagles fan could be commenting in the chat. Why are we talking about the Cowboys now? Anyway, I'm glad you have things to talk about, because I think you do a great job with content creation. You're all over the place. bloggingtheboys.com. You got your Instagram and all these channels. But unfortunately for you, Cowboys have become so uninteresting in terms of the scope of what the 2025 season means, that you're like reacting to the Commanders game, and I see you like posting these videos like, what do we even talk about? What does this game mean? How should we feel? Which I'm not saying, I'm not coming at you saying like don't do that, because it's where you are, but I like it. It's very funny to me from the standpoint of that's where I want the Cowboys to be. I don't want the Cowboys. This is like kind of almost the perfect season for me, for the Dallas Cowboys, 8-1, because I want them to be. I want them to be the highest possible team possible draft pick you could possibly get of any team that doesn't make the playoffs. Because I think there are people out there who would conversely be like, I want the Cowboys to lose every single game and go 0-17. I don't, because then they're going to get a really good draft pick, and they could do something exciting for that draft pick, and it might be good for what's best for them in the long run. I'd rather them be in the middle like they are here. So liking that. Also, I think it's very unlikely that it happens, to be clear. I'm going to preface this with saying that. But the world where Trayvon Diggs does make a big play for the Packers in a playoff game and would help them win would be terrible for the Cowboys in terms of making the draft pick a little bit worse. That's probably not going to happen, in part because the Packers just seem cooked, and also I don't even know what the likelihood of him playing is. But it does just speak to how the time frame, which is also a big problem why the Micah trade was so bad. It's the pure timing of the trade was so bad. And also kind of just speaks to how the Cowboys kind of, I think, continue to get this wrong. Why couldn't they have just waited why couldn't they have waited till the season was over to release him?
I think that they were just fed up and,
but now another team benefits, and I think it hurt the Cowboys in theory.
No, I think that, I think you could argue that was maybe part of the motivation, was and being willing to live with the consequences for the betterment of Trayvon's individual career, which you can argue is, runs against their goals as a team, but is arguably the kinder thing to do.
In fairness, it is the money too, because then they, the Packers claim his remaining salary this year, so the Packers do have to pick that up. The Cowboys don't have to pay that, but that's chump change.
I think this addresses all of your points. There is I mean, and I've been telling you this for a long time, there's an extreme apathy that has been developed over the course of the last 2 years specifically. Like it existed to some degree, but I think we were all willing to talk or cope ourselves into believing different things when we believed that the team was at least trying. The last 2 years have really shed a light on how they're not trying, as evidenced by 90% of things. And you can argue that evidence existed, before then. I'm not here to quibble with that. I'm just here to tell you that the last 2 years, the ratio has been significantly more substantial. And I think you would agree with that. And so to go in chronological order, yeah, they played on Christmas, and I love Thanksgiving. And I've mentioned many times, and you've always been great about this. My son was born the night before Thanksgiving. And so now he's a part of that holiday for me, and the Cowboys play. And so it's a big thing in my household. And so it's kind of fun that the Cowboys play every Thanksgiving. Part of it's because we're used to it. So they played Christmas, and I was purely annoyed. There was no like fun to it for me, because it wasn't just like, oh man, okay, well, we got to do this, and then Dad's got to do the game, whatever. But it was like I have to work. Like it really just felt like work, and
Sure.
it was at noon as opposed to 3:30 when the Thanksgiving game is. And so like that impacted morning Christmas things. You know what I mean? It was different. And so I was purely annoyed. And then they, won, and it was like, cool. Like, like how do we really feel about it? And the offense, speaking of offense falling asleep, was asleep in the second half. And I wasn't even like bothered. I wasn't even pissed off about it. I was just like, so what? On some level, I wish they were asleep more so they would have lost, so that they would have improved their draft position. So it was very, very hollow sort of feeling relative to the game specifically, as opposed to the Trayvon thing. I mean, again, the writing was on the wall for a long time. I suppose I respect if they truly did want to benefit him individually, that they wanted to set him up. Great. I don't think my friend Jimmy was texting me kind of what you and he actually share a lot of qualities. So you remind me of each other often. And he texted me, he was like, oh man, if Trayvon, has an amazing moment or wins the Super Bowl with the Packers, Cowboys fans are going to be pissed. And I responded, I was like, no, we're not. Like we're like, well, there are some people who will be pissed. I don't ever. It
won't happen. To be clear,
I don't ever mean to speak on behalf of the entire fan base, but like again, I think we're all just so apathetic that it's just like if he had the like game clinching pick six in the Super Bowl, I would just be like, cool. Like I would be bothered in a literal sense, but I would not be hot and bothered. I would just feel whatever.
Well, even should be.
If he had a pick to like seal a game and theoretically make the draft pick worse, like I really wouldn't care. Like and not that I wouldn't, and I'm sad that I wouldn't care. I am sad that I wouldn't care, to be clear.
I'd be curious if the roles were reversed.
Well, you haven't been through this, like, and so it's a difficult thing to like keep the same passion when they are doing all they can to like put that fire out.
Good question here from Eagles Girl 52. How would you evaluate Shotty's first year as head coach with this season being so strange and challenging?
I think that from a culture, leadership, human being standpoint, he fared very well. I think he handled the Micah thing as the contract negotiations were ongoing as well as he could. I think he handled things as well as he could after the Cowboys traded him. This isn't related to Shotty specifically, but I do not want, when the Cowboys fire Matt Eberflus, for everyone to be like, well, he's on record for having been a part of the group that was unanimous in trading Micah away. If anybody really believes that there was unanimous agreement to trade Micah away, just grow up a little bit. It's kind of my point.
What's the letter grade you would give him if you had to give him one?
Well, I was kind of building my point. That was a tangent. I apologize. I think that he was a far better offensive play caller for the most part than I could have anticipated, than anyone could have, because we had no data to go off of. That was the big thing. I think he finished kind of in a B+ area as far as an offensive play caller. I think he really helped Dak Prescott be comfortable. I think he shied away from things when he shouldn't have. I mean, just like force the ball to CD and George Pickens. But he also established the run game in a way that, he was known for doing, that his father was known for doing. I think some of that credit goes to Clayton Adams, who I give Ryan Schottenheimer credit for identifying, which is why I want him to be the person to be able to hire the defensive coordinator, assuming they go, in a different direction. So I think B+ from a schematic standpoint. I think A from a culture standpoint. It's difficult to grade anybody off of this, but obviously dealing with a team tragedy is inordinate. It's not even inordinately difficult. It's impossible. My point is, I think he's a phenomenal human being. And I think that he really let that kind of carry him all throughout the season in the ways that it was needed, obviously, whether they were positive or negative. And this isn't about Shoddy, but like we're in a world where how many Ben Johnson's in the playoffs and Mike Vrabel's in the playoffs, neither of whom were even interviewed by the Cowboys. Ben Johnson was impossible to be interviewed by the Cowboys because they dragged their feet on Mike McCarthy, which I've brought up many different times. So again, I feel bad for Shoddy that he takes the blame for things like that when it all ultimately comes back to the front office and their insistence to do things their ways. So that has nothing to do with him. I think he was a B+, football brain. I think he was an A human being across all the season as a whole. And doing so in the middle of the circus that is the Dallas Cowboys, obviously.
We'll get to more, I feel like, Cowboys offseason stuff next week. We can save that. Like, who do you want them to hire as defensive coordinator, so on and so forth. But now we have to flip it to the Washington Commanders.
I mean, again, what is there to say there either? Like,
down to Josh Johnson. How do you like this? You like weird, NFL history trivia stuff.
Oh, did you see, by the way, the clip of the coaches being asked about the Bo Jackson thing?
No. Where is this from? Hard Knocks?
It's from NFL Films. I don't know what
I don't even know what you're talking about at all.
It was all over Twitter. Various NFL head coaches were asked which active NFL head coach had 5 more rushing yards as a player than Bo Jackson.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, who's your guess?
Active NFL. Wait, what's the career rushing yards?
Yeah, so a coach who's an active head coach of an NFL team.
Head coach.
Their career as a player in the NFL, they had 5 more rushing yards than Bo Jackson.
Man, I feel like I'm blanking on this.
So the clip has John Harbaugh, D'Amico Ryans, Liam Cohen, Sean McVay, and they're all acting like you are in the clip. They're like, and they're like going through the whole NFL trying, and they all are like, Dan Campbell, no, and they're all just trying, and Dan Campbell's in it as well. I'll go ahead and give you the answer. It's Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So it's a cool little, Oh, Brian Schottenheimer was in the video as well. But so that being said, yeah. Oh, you're a piece of fun fact, I guess, about Washington.
Sorry, I got distracted by another comment from Danny here, who is, I think, is the funniest comments from
Danny
the episode
is
so
just
far.
Trolling you, or trolling all of us at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, Washington Commanders are down to. Oh yeah, my fun fact about Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson. I remember watching this game live in 2009 when he was in his second year, I believe, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, starting against the Eagles. That was his second career start. He's now making his 11th career start in the NFL against the Philadelphia Eagles. Second start, 2009, October 2009. His 11th start, January 2026. That's so insane. Like, for a player to have that kind of longevity, yet so not even play for that long as well.
I don't know how much you watched.
Funny to me.
I don't know how much you watched the Cowboys game on Christmas against them, but it got a lot of play on Netflix. And the thought I had was, we're over here talking about, not you and I necessarily, but how Matthew Stafford is long in the tooth. Josh Johnson was drafted the year before Matthew Stafford into the NFL at large. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, I respect. I mean, he's somehow managed to hang on. He hasn't looked terrible either.
Managed to hang on and have the right games at the right time. You know what I mean? To keep buying him more and more and more and more.
As far as third string quarterbacks go, you could do worse. There are worse third string quarterbacks out there. So, but he's starting for the Commanders. The Commanders lost former Dallas Cowboys center Tyler Biadasz to IR. They're banged up. Laramie Tunsil is not going to play in the final game of the season. So they're pretty banged up here. Heading into a Week 18 game against the Eagles, where Dan Quinn has sworn revenge after punting on 4th and short multiple times in the Eagles' last game, late in the game. Really going all out to win here. So I guess that's really all you can say. Oh, last thing. I was doing a question and answer exchange, as we usually do each week on Bleeding Green Nation, most SB Nation NFL sites do. And I was like, Commanders are obviously draft pick poor. And to reframe that, the Eagles are going to make 6 picks in the 2026 NFL draft before the Commanders make their 3rd pick, which is early in the 5th round. And I was like, are you guys going to try to trade anyone, replenish these picks? And they're like, kind of can't. really aren't many players to trade away there. So they're in a tough situation.
My only note on the Commanders right now is about the future, which is again all we can kind of discuss with the non-Eagles teams here. And I think we all think that the Cowboys are going to be in the market for a new defensive coordinator this time next week. And a lot of people have thrown out Brian Flores' name, and we'll talk about that obviously as the time comes next week. But a lot of people have also thrown out Al Harris's name. And so while I would love that, I have several points, which is one, why would he come back? Why would anyone come back? Like once you break free, why would you come back? Two, people forget that like people associate Al Harris with being a Dan Quinn guy because I think Dan Quinn might need a new defensive coordinator. Is kind of where I'm going here. If they move on from Joe Witt and Al Harris,
probably will.
Well, so Al Harris
his play calling.
It would make sense that Al Harris would have that opportunity. But my other point, and I've mentioned this before, not just here, but in the Blog on the Boys universe, we associate him with being a Dan Quinn guy. He was a Mike McCarthy guy. He played for Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. And so if Mike McCarthy gets a new job, whether that's in Tennessee or the team we're going to talk about here, it would make sense for Mike McCarthy to offer him that job. So my point is, like, I think he'll at the very least potentially have two defensive coordinator offers that aren't the Cowboys that he would have to choose, presuming he didn't even want to just stay in Chicago. But I do think he's probably going to be elsewhere next season. Okay,
I have a really good defensive coordinator name for the Cowboys, by the way. Jonathan Gannon. Make sure to hire him if he gets
okay, so we ready to move on to the Giants?
Yeah, the New York Giants, who messed up and won.
I called it. I said they would win and that they would brag about the culture. I couldn't remember what you said. It was a long time ago.
I took because I remember I literally I think I bet on the Raiders to reverse, which is a very sad state to reverse jinx them, to do the emotional hedge on them.
You were out of that early then. Okay.
Yeah. I'm fine with. I really wanted the Raiders to lose that game very badly. So I did not want the Giants to have the number one pick. It's still possible they do, I guess, because the Raiders play the Chiefs this weekend. Giants play the Dallas Cowboys, but I think the Raiders are going to go very obviously all out to make sure they lose that game and get this number one pick, just like they did against the Giants, who are now number 2. And in theory, not likely, but in theory,
you brought this up. Yeah. Okay.
And this is why the Dallas Cowboys must do their part this weekend, because if the Giants win this game, again, not likely, but in theory, they could drop to as low as 7. And that would be like devastating for them. After the season they had, even this terrible season, you dropped to the 7th pick overall.
I saw this thing that they've won, I think, 6 games in their last 33 games. And 2 of those 6 wins came in week 17 to cost them the number 1 overall pick. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a tough scene for the New York Giants.
And they're like, as bad as I feel, they're proof that it could be worse. Like there's no doubt about that.
Of course.
And to that point, I mean, I don't know what the point is, but
and yet I've also won 2 Super Bowls in the time that the
my point was going to be so if the Cowboys win on Sunday, it will be Dak Prescott's 15th win in a row against the Giants, which I still think is kind of cool. But at one point in time, I thought was really cool. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just withered away coolness. Whatever. That being said, okay, so a couple things here that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen as well. Because I know we both follow a lot of other Giant content creators that aren't just, we certainly recommend Ed Valentine and Big Blue View, but I've seen this from a lot of different people. And I don't have a take on this, but Giants fans are in a really, really dark place because there's criticism of John Mara, who is dealing with health issues. And so you have a sector of Giants fans who are rightfully empathetic towards that. And then you have a sector who are feeling, well, this is a business. He should have assigned someone to care for the business while he is unable to do so. And so it's become this big thing. And it's become this big thing because it seems like they're going to keep Joe Shane as general manager and cite Mr. Mara's health issues, which we certainly are praying for him and hoping the best for him with regards to. And so, like, I think in a vacuum, like if we separate the our natural instinct to make fun of the Giants, we can understand, anyone could, how it would make sense to keep some continuity when the head of the company is dealing with something. But what does Joe Shane have to show for his time as general manager? It's a very difficult thing politically.
It's also the unique situation of, the Giants are a co-ownership, as we know, with Steve Tisch as well.
Right.
That seems like a perfect time where Tisch would kind of have to have more influence there and step in and really step up. And I'm not trying to be not sympathetic to Mr. Mara, John Mara. I say Mr. Mara as a pun, or not as a pun, but like a bit. Like that's not a good excuse to keep Joe Schoen. Like it's just not. Like Joe Schoen has been really bad at his job, and this is a pivotal time, I think, for the Giants here to get things right moving forward. Like you have a real opportunity to set the table in a good way if you do it right. And I would not just I would not miss that. I would really try hard not to miss that opportunity, this window that you have. Again, I laid it out. Was it last week when we did, or when we last recorded? I said, like, wipe the slate clean, to start over entirely. Like, new coach, new GM, number one pick, new quarterback. Like, totally just get this Giants football team, like, pointed in a direction. And I just feel like if that failed, as a Giants fan, I feel like you would have to be like, at least we tried. Like,
Yeah.
I feel okay. Like, we went into this with a good plan. It fell apart yet again, because we're cursed, whatever. The ownership is terrible, whatever. But like, that would be the best plan the Giants have had since when? In years. That would be their best plan in the post Eli, post whatever, like post Super Bowl. Let's say that's the real benchmark there. The post Super Bowl era for them. This would be the best possible plan they could do, is totally wipe it clean. I don't think they're going to do that. And I'm very glad about that from my standpoint, because I want them to keep Joe Schoen. I think they are very delusional. I think there's the sentiment that I see kind of on Big Blue View. And to Ed's credit, he did a good piece trying to survey the league in terms of other GMs and personnel people, and also other SB Nation writers. And like, because I think the Giants fans have this idea. I don't think everyone loves Shane, but I do think there's an idea like, oh, they have talent. They just have to get the coaching right. They have a quarter. No, you have nothing. Assume you have nothing, reset everything. Obviously, like, there's certain players on the roster you do keep. Yeah. But
No, but like,
don't assume like you have this great framework. You're just like one thing away. You're not one thing away.
Here's the thing. If all of a sudden you and I became like in charge of the Giants, like that, they were like our job, like if we were Josh Harris and we would switch allegiances the way you view him to have done so, I like, our first conversation, I would be like, there's nothing that's untouchable here. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing that like that is above a line.
Yep.
So like, to that point, like, you can have any player, you can have any coach, you know what I mean? Like, we can make any change. You want us to move buildings or whatever, change the signs, change, we're Krispy Kreme. You want us to be Dunkin'? Cool. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing that would be.
What are you holding on to? What is like, we can't possibly let go of this?
Well, and that's
why.
That's like, it was dumb at the time, but when Ben McAdoo benched Eli for Geno, at least to your point, there was a matter of like, what are you holding on to? And it was the pass, which was dumb and silly, but at least it was something.
It was something to point to,
right?
Yeah.
And so this is not that. And so like, we have often said that it would be stupid, obviously, to not wipe the slate clean when you can, to get a new head coach, new GM, and new quarterback. The worst possible way to do this is actually to have them all on different timelines. So now you're going to have a quarterback who was drafted by the GM, but a new head coach, and then you're probably going to fire the GM in a year. So then you're going to have a GM who did not hire the head coach or draft the quarterback, and a quarterback who, a coach who was not hired by the GM or drafted the quarterback. And it's going to create dysfunction for no one's going to have any loyalty to anyone. Everyone's going to be their own mercenary. So there are rumors, and we'll get these more substantially next week once these teams are officially eliminated, but that the Giants are considering, and I hope they do this, not just as a Cowboys fan, but as a Sun Devil, interviewing Antonio Pierce. So Antonio Pierce failed as the Raiders head coach, but he also partly destroyed Arizona State football with Herm Edwards and committed all sorts of recruiting violations that Arizona State had to deal with, that they're just now starting to kind of rise up above against. I would think that Cam Scadaboo would know that and would communicate that. But that being said, that is... we're no longer in 2025, and I thought about tweeting this several times in the final days of the year. There were legitimate points in 2025 when Jason Witten was being mentioned as a head coach candidate for the Dallas Cowboys. This is literally that. I recognize it's not, because Antonio Pierce has some experience, some legitimate experience. I don't want to belittle it, but that would just be trying to connect to the past. Like that would be so pathetic to go down that road beyond the patheticness that is Antonio Pierce for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I really want them to hire Antonio Pierce. I got excited when I saw that name come up for them. I think I would be very okay if they hired Mike McCarthy. I do think that's kind of the direction they're going to go in, more so because I don't think they're going to go inexperienced guy. Like they've done that before. Like they did that with Joe Judge. They did that with Brian Dable to some extent in terms of he had been around the NFL, but hadn't been a head coach. I think they're going to go for a retread at this point. Now, obviously, they did that with Pat Shermer, but I mean, come on, let's be real.
I know you've and like say what you want, get your jokes off. Mike McCarthy would be something that they haven't had in a long time. He would be an adult in the room. And,
I agree.
And the Cowboys failed the overall purpose of Mike McCarthy's tenure, but they did become far more legitimate and far more stable in terms of football operations under his care. And so I would be bummed because I think he would raise them from the cellar. He would not put them in the skybox, but he would get them on the ground floor.
You're saying he's like Ron Rivera for the Commanders?
No, I don't think
where the Commanders were.
I don't think they're run.
He absolutely made them better than where they were at the time.
That's a fair comp, especially, but those were extraordinary circumstances that Ron Rivera was fighting against, to be fair.
And obviously it ended way better than it started there, but he took them from because they were just pure slop, and then he made them competitive slop a little bit there. Anyway, yeah, I agree. But the point stands of I didn't like the Ron Rivera hire for the Commanders in terms of raising their ceiling. I liked it for raising their floor. I think it's similar to me. Now you can debate. I think we can debate how much it raises the Giants' floor. But still, I would rather them end up with him as opposed to I don't know. Chris Shula might be really good.
I don't think there is a guy right now though that either of us would be petrified. There's not that. That's what makes being in need right now terrifying. There's not that golden goose out there.
Well, my aforementioned podcast co-host on the Ringer Silly Special, Shio Kapadia, he has mentioned. He brought this up just as a random tangent point on the podcast talking about the Eagles. He was like, I think Greg Olson's going to be the Eagles head coach in whatever amount of years.
That would be terrifying. I would really be that.
Yeah, that's really something. If they did something out of the box like that, that might actually, it might work. Not, but here's the thing. If it doesn't work out and it's a tremendous disaster, then the Giants are just back where they started anyway. But yeah, if they make a big swing, that's why I didn't want them to take a shot on Marcus Freeman, because I feel like maybe Marcus, and obviously he's staying at Notre Dame.
Right.
I think if they take a major swing, and that's why I'm saying I would rather them hire Mike McCarthy than take this major swing on someone who might be the next great thing. It's probably unlikely, but it's possible.
I know. I always remember your. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head your headline when Jason Witten unretired. What was it? Eagles signed.
I'm looking it up right now.
You don't have to look it up. I mean, it was Eagles or Cowboys signed failed color analyst or something like that. So my point is that dipping your toes in the television waters isn't some foolproof strategy or plan. What was it? I know you found it.
Jason Witten retires after 100 years in the NFL to join. Oh, wait, no, sorry. That was joining the broadcast booth. That was Jason Witten retires after 100 years in the NFL to join Monday Night Football.
That's not even offensive. That's actually really kind. In fact, Jason Witten's up for the Hall of Fame this year, so we'll see if he gets in.
He returned to the Raiders, right? That's what.
No, he returned to the Cowboys and then left for the Raiders when Mike McCarthy took over. Some believe because he did not put him on the Cowboys staff, which again we sort of just discussed in a different way. Did you find this?
I can't find it.
Okay. Anyway, you had a funny headline that I always remember.
Appreciate it.
But I thought when the Raiders hired John Gruden and Mike Mayock, it was very dumb. And it didn't work out and it was awful, whatever. But I kind of liked it. I kind of thought well, this is interesting. To your point, maybe it hits. Maybe the well has oil in it, to use a Jerryism. And to that point, maybe Troy Aikman knows something that can help you, Miami Dolphins, right? It's worth considering something like that. So to your point about Greg Olson, it would be really stupid, I think, to hire Greg Olson right now without any coach experience, and people would think different things, like the way the Texans wanted to hire Josh McCown way back when. But I would be nervous. I would be very nervous, but I don't think they're that bold. I don't think they're that cunning. I think it's going to be something safe. I think the boldest thing would be
McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy. Yeah,
I don't even think that's bold. I think that is the safe, and I think they're going to go that because I think they want something more proven.
Eagles Girl 52 asks us something that we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah.
The idea of Tomlin becoming the Giants head coach. Now, here's the thing. I think that they would consider that and characterize that to be bold. That would be the safest possible thing.
I think it would take a trade. Yeah, and I know he has a no trade clause, but we've talked about that before.
And
I think that
also
they could work it out.
We have talked about this, but in case anyone is unaware, the Giants and the Steelers, the reason it wouldn't be bold is they are family, literally. know which Mara and which Rooney married, but they are literally family. And so they're effectively like cousins of NFL franchises. And so it would not be bold whatsoever. It would be like when the Ravens traded Anquan Bolden to the Niners, like way back when. It would be extremely predictable. And I would actually be impressed with the Steelers for moving on from Mike Tomlin and for getting something from Mike Tomlin. It would show, because these are two franchises who are both really stuck in their ways. And it would show that the Steelers are more willing to adapt and evolve and move into the future, where the Giants would be trying to connect to the past, a past that wasn't even theirs. So I hope they go with the Mike Tomlin route. I don't view Mike Tomlin as someone who can raise their floor the way I view Mike McCarthy.
Yeah,
because we haven't seen Mike Tomlin do it anywhere else, which is obvious. But my point is, we have seen Mike McCarthy go to a clown show and make them respectable. That's something he has that Mike Tomlin does not right now. Although you could argue that Mike Tomlin has managed different clown show things and made them respectable. They could be a playoff team, this weekend, to be fair.
Why don't we get to the games this week? But let's also predict the things that are relevant. It's really just, I guess, let's predict relevant games.
I think we predict the games, the two games, and then I think we rank from our perspectives Eagles playoff opponents.
Okay.
Most to least preferred. So the games quickly. Dallas is at New York and is a 3.5 point favorite. We'll take the Cowboys, and they're going to be super pumped. Did you see Jerry's quote this morning, Friday morning?
No.
He said that he was like, I hope we win and we reach our winning record. He said, I'll consider it winning.
It's not.
Even though it's, I know. Hang on, let me find the exact quote. Because it was really embarrassing.
I know you're not saying it, but I'm just responding to him. It's literally not a winning record.
I'm going to call it a winning record if it's even. So he knows that too.
It's not.
I know that. He knows that. But his quote was, I'm going to call it a winning record if it's even.
I think you would, while it's literally not true still, I think you would have an argument more so if you won the playoffs and you were 8-8, or you won your division and you made the playoffs, or even maybe a wild card as 8-1, but not especially when you don't make the playoffs.
We're both taking the Cowboys and to cover.
Yeah, and I'm furious because the Giants, the Cowboys need to do right by the NFC East and lose this game.
Meanwhile, are only 3.5 point home favorites against the Commanders, but because they're resting all their starters.
So this line originally opened as Eagles minus 7.5. Or right around there. And then it was announced that the Eagles are going to rest the starters, and that line dropped to 3.5 right after that. I saw it go back to 4 yesterday. Now I see still it's at 3.5 here. So, look, I think Tanner McKee is great, and I think it's quite possible the Eagles win despite playing their backups against a Washington team that is banged up, and unless Dan Quinn really just has them all fired up about that 2-point conversion from a couple weeks ago, probably doesn't have a ton of motivation to play here in this spot. But I don't love the idea that, and this scenario exists where the Eagles don't win the game and the Chicago Bears, who are hosting the Detroit Lions.
Okay,
the Lions
pick the game first. Let's do that. I'm picking the.
I'm gonna say the Eagles.
I'm picking the Eagles and laying the points.
I'm gonna say they win the game. I don't. For the sake of this, I have to make a pick. I'll give the points. I'll take the Eagles minus 3.5. But I would stay away from this line.
Full agreement this week. Okay, so the picks part of this conversation is over. Okay.
Yeah, but I do think there's a scenario here where the Eagles lose this game in part because there's hubris of not playing the starters. So then
walk us through that. Wins and losses, different scenarios. Let's get to that.
So the scenario the Eagles need to get to the number 2 seed, because otherwise
they're currently at 3.
They're locked into 3 unless this scenario happens that I'm about to say, which is, and we're eliminating ties here for simplicity's sake. The Eagles win their game and they play the same time as the Detroit Lions, who are in Chicago, who obviously the Lions can't make the playoffs now, but it's Dan Campbell. So you think that, they're not going to just lay down.
Yeah.
And the Bears need to lose. And then in the event that the Eagles win, Bears lose, the Eagles will be the number 2 seed, which I think is massive because they get to host the Green Bay Packers. So we're locked into the number 7 seed at this point. The Eagles would guarantee another home game if they are able to win the first one in the wild card round. So you get a guaranteed divisional game. You win that. Maybe you're hosting the NFC Championship game as the number 2 seed, just literally like they did last year. So there's so much upside to me in getting the 2 seed. I think that is massive. So I think it's possible. Again, the Eagles win. I think it's actually likely. The Eagles win this game by playing their backups. However, in the event that the Eagles lose this game and the
And
Lions
the Bears
actually
lose,
help them,
you'll be pissed. Yeah.
you're going to be kicking yourself. You're going to be, we're so like, that's so stupid. That'd be the most stupid. And it'd also be the most hubristic, like Sirianni thing of this year. It's like, oh, we don't need to maximize our chances. We just need to get by. Just get by.
Okay, so now that we understand this, let's kind of do what you were suggesting a moment ago and fill out the rest of the bracket in terms of our picks. So Seattle, San Francisco. I'm going to take San Francisco. I really don't want to, but I'm going to. I think they just.
Yeah, I think the Niners are hot. I'm going to take them.
Okay, so we think San Francisco is the 1 seed.
So they'll be the 1 seed.
Okay, and Seattle is the 5 seed then.
Yep.
And so so Seattle's the 5 seed. That would make, and the Rams are the 6 seed. So the difference is whether you're facing the Rams or the Packers. 2 teams who the Eagles have beaten, and that might be the Sirianni logic. Like, we already beat them. Jalen Carter blocked the field goal, whatever, blah blah, and recovered it for a touchdown when he should have just gone down. Whatever, football IQ, whatever. Man, that would be funny. Like, now that so the difference is facing a Rams team who is hot too, even though they lost to the Falcons.
I still think the Rams are the top team in the NFL, even though they're 2-3 in their last 5. The resume is so good. I don't care that they lost these last 2 games. Like, that is so short-sighted to be like, well, now the Rams are bad. No, they're not. They've had an awesome resume all year long. And also, they might be getting, I think they are getting Devontae Adams back, and that's huge.
Yeah. You mentioned, and I only mentioned this so that Eagles fans don't warp your words. Not that you meant it this way. The Packers will actually probably be entering the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak because they're on a 3-game losing streak at the moment, and they are locked into the 7th seed. To your point, so they're
8.5-point dogs to the Vikings right now.
They're going to be resting, and I hope the Vikings win. So the Vikings get to 9 wins, which pushes them behind the Cowboys. But my point is, I don't want anyone to be like, oh, the Packers are on a 4-game losing streak next week. That wouldn't be properly representative of them.
I mean, it's true, though.
It is true. My point is they didn't try.
They might have lost this game even if they tried to win it. Let's be real.
That's fair. But my point is, so the difference would be hosting a hobbling Green Bay team, however you wanted to describe them, or a Rams team who was probably going to be somewhat. I know Sean McVay said they were going to play or whatever, but like he would be foolish to fully play. Anybody.
That was in the aftermath of a loss, and I don't think also his history points to resting guys.
So my point is, I would much rather play the Packers. And then to your point, if the Seahawks, who we think are going to be the 5 seed, or if the Niners are the 5 seed, if they go take care of business against, the other, you know what I mean, in the divisional round, you could technically host the NFC Championship game if you played, to win. But I mean, there's a lot of ifs, because you could also argue, what if we play to win and somebody gets hurt and then the Bears win anyway?
I can live with that, though. I can live with knowing I tried to do the thing, as opposed to I can't live with knowing you didn't try.
So your worst case scenario on Sunday is Lions win, Eagles win. That would bother you.
Or Eagles lose, Lions win.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, Eagles lose, Lions win.
Yeah.
What if Eagles won and the Lions won anyway?
What do you mean? Then they'd be the 2 seed.
I know. Well, then wouldn't you have to hand it to Nick and be like, "Dang, dude"?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the optimal scenario. Like,
maybe Nick is that confident that
I'm not going to say I'm wrong. Like, I do think that's possible.
The Eagles are still favored to win, despite declaring that they're going to rest.
Do I think the Eagles can get a good result on a bad process? Yeah, they do it all the time.
What a great way to bookend this.
Well, what was your pick for the Lions Bears game? Because
I think the Bears are going to win. I think
the Bears are 3-point favorites in Chicago.
The Bears are going to win. So
okay, that's fair. I'm going to take the Lions. I think the Lions actually win this game.
I actually, though.
So I'm predicting the Eagles will be the 2 seed.
So I really am indifferent to if the Eagles win the Super Bowl. At this point, given all these things. So that being said, I am sort of rooting for, in that respect, in the respect of getting the Packers out as early as possible to get the best draft pick possible, even though I said I would root for the Packers to beat the Eagles. I think my point is, I think the Packers stand a better chance against the Bears in the wild card round than they do against the Eagles. Like, it would be like,
I think that's fair.
And so if the Packers, I don't want either the Packers or Eagles to go far, but if the Packers are playing the Eagles, I think the Eagles are going to win. If the Packers are playing the Bears, it would be the most Packers and Cowboys and Bears thing for the Packers to beat the Bears in the wild card round and advance the divisional round.
So you want the Eagles to get the 2 seed, basically, then, is what you're saying.
Well, then,
in this scenario.
but I also in this scenario, but that would also mean that Philly is going to advance the divisional round, which would bother me. I'm just stuck. You know what I mean? I can't.
I think it's best for the Cowboys to just hope that. I think you're right. So I think it's just weird though. It's. I know the Packers have been reeling, but they played competitive against the Bears a couple of weeks ago. Like I think it's just a division.
It's also like it would be so Bears for them to have this season and like finally break through and finally conquer the Packers and then lose at home at Soldier Field to the Packers in the playoffs of all.
Well, it's the stat about how like inexperienced quarterbacks in the playoffs. Right. Like that's a great thing to bet against. Caleb Williams, first game in the playoffs. I know the Bears have been better, but like that could be a very he could have a terrible game.
All right.
So yeah.
Let's do songs. Oh, another resolution of mine was to listen to music more because I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, but I want to make some time for.
I almost always listen to music when I'm writing.
Sometimes I have to. Like sometimes I try to put a show or a podcast on, but then I'm like, I can't do this.
I can't do show. Yeah, I get too distracted. Just, by the way, watch Stranger Things, the finale. Not going to say anything, obviously, no spoilers, but I enjoyed it personally. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Bold take. Everyone, I think people like to. This is not about Stranger Things, about a larger point. I saw this a lot when Game of Thrones was on, which I think Game of Thrones. By the way, I'm just realizing, man, I should have. I'm not. My song is not going to be Blink-182, but this is episode 182 of the mixtape here, so I guess I should have done that. Anyway, I think people just like try to hate on shows in part because of clout. That became so much of a thing to me with Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, look at this moment. Like when people were live tweeting the end of the Game of Thrones, it's like, oh, what another bad moment. And it's like, if you feel that way, I respect it. But I feel like you're just doing this in part as performative behavior.
They opened the door for that when they did the Starbucks cup thing, in my mind. Like when you showed that lack of like effort, then you open the door. But that's sort of where I feel the Cowboys are as a franchise. Like everything they do is wrong and will be perceived as being wrong or like funny or memeable or whatever until it's not anymore. You know what I mean? And you just have to like accept that Game of Thrones was a good show that had a bad ending, or that, Stranger Things, whatever. And that the Cowboys are kind of successful in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. Like, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to live in the like intensity of one moment, but when that one moment is so big, it does become the moment in a lot of sort of metaphysical ways.
I also just think like most endings to things in general and movies, shows, like one's ever like, that was a great ending.
What's the best series finale in your opinion that you've seen?
I don't know. I can't tell you. Sure.
Or Scrubs.
But like I don't feel passionately about that.
Wow. Okay, so my song, I saw this in a TikTok, and then I went in and rewatched the music video because I hadn't seen it in a long time. The song is Without You by David Guetta featuring Usher. I hadn't heard that song in a long time, so I was like reminded that it existed. Incredible song, and kind of felt New Year's-y. I was watching the music video last night, which was New Year's Day. So it was kind of like in the moment for me. But I went and rewatched the music video. Have you seen this music video?
I don't think so.
It's like the reverse Pangea. It's like it's like Pangea reforming is the premise of the music video, so that all the people on all the continents can party together. It's kind of a pure idea. I kind of really liked it. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but when I went to it on YouTube, it had like the red line, and I was like, wow, I wonder when the last time was. We should get those stats on YouTube. Like, like you haven't watched this since, March 4th, 2017 or whatever. Like that would have been cool to know in that moment. Cause I have no idea when it was, but, so YouTube, we're on you, but if you're listening, free idea. But that's my song, Without You.
Looking forward to listening to that and others on the NFC East Mixtape playlist,
which is linked in the description down below. We hadn't been doing that before.
Yeah, that's a good idea by you. Thank you for doing that. And then I have no idea. I've not checked the Spotify one because I don't use Spotify personally.
Yeah, we're Apple Music.
But if you do, there's at least an outdated version at the very least, so you can go check that out if you want. My addition was going to be one that I planned to do. It's not New Year's themed because we were going to do this episode originally before 2025 ended, and I am picking this because this was. You ever have like an artist or songs that you listen to for a bit and then you're like, oh, I forgot. You stumble across it again. You're like, oh yeah, that's right, I was listening to that. And obviously that's part of what like Spotify Wrapped / the Apple Music Wrapped, whatever you call it, recap is useful for. And one of the ones that I'd kind of forgotten about at one point, but was happy to remember was this band, which I am of the belief they existed for a very brief amount of time. The only thing I can really find from them on Apple Music and in large, I think, is this one 35-minute 7-song album called Load My Revolver Baby. It is by Her Words Kill. It is kind of probably intense for some people. So your mileage may vary whether you like this or not. I like sometimes bands that do like you have more harsher, intense vocals in the same songs. You'll have the more like harmonic, and they call it clean vocals. And the popular song from this album, which has apparently like it kind of like it was one of these things that randomly just caught, like this was a big MySpace band I think back in the day.
Okay.
I was not aware of it at the time, but apparently this like caught back on TikTok more recently within the past year or so. I don't know how or why. I'm not even on TikTok really. But the song is called Sir, This Is a Cutthroat Fashion. So that's my pick. It's a cool song. All the songs kind of really play into each other on this album, which is a common theme for me in my picks because I like progressive music that does that, and I like to listen to albums in their entirety. But if I have to pick one song because I can't add the whole album, I'm just going to pick that song. Boom.
Wow. Okay.
Long explanation.
Also
going to give a shout out before we leave.
Go ahead.
To Inside Out Pizza in Philly, because Rachel and I have been going there and we like it there a lot, and we just wanted to show them some love. They've been very generous. They just gave Rachel got like a half of a pizza, I think back on Sunday or over the weekend, and they gave her like an extra whole like half just for free. They're really nice people, really generous. So yeah, check out Inside Out Pizza in Philly. On it's 1208 Mifflin Street. Or no, that is not the case actually. It is on by the Singing Fountain, Pass Young. So check it out, and it is really good pizza. Check it
out. Very nice. Very well done all the way through. Shout out to Pizza, which started this show. Mm-hmm. The effect is kind of worn off. Like I still feel happy, but I don't feel, like Charlie and Grandpa Joe floating. You know what I mean? The way I did at the beginning. If we're doing shout outs, I'm going to do a shout out. I don't know who to shout out. I've someone asked you this before. Whoever it is that we work for or with that allows us to have screeners of movies. I don't know who that is. But we've mentioned
Writers Guild.
I guess so. But whoever like set that up, because I got it's been a very weird week, and my wife and I put away all the Christmas decorations yesterday, and I was doing that during the college football playoff games. So my brain, and I had the TV on in the garage while I was putting everything away, and my brain kept thinking it was Saturday, and I was like, oh, it's not Saturday, but then my brain was going, oh, it's Friday, and I was like, it's not Friday. I was like, it's Thursday. So it's very weird. So tonight is actually Friday night, and very excited. I think we might watch the Knives Out movie tonight, the new one. So I don't need a screener for that, but got a screener this week for Wicked for Good. So very excited to watch it.
Still need to watch that.
Well, you should have the screener. Also, opposite of shout out to our colleague Michael Peterson, because I was telling him about this, and he was like, oh, I never see anything good on the screeners. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like,
the opposite of a shout out is a whisper in, I believe.
Whisper in to Michael Peterson, because he hated on the screeners. And then he said he didn't know how to work them. And I was like, dude, ask. So yeah.
Wow, really just putting him on blast. He'll never listen to this, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Eagles Girl said I enjoyed Wicked for Good.
Okay.
So, good non-spoilery review type thing. That's what we're looking for around here. Okay, Brandon, as we leave,
I think there's only one way to end the show, RJ, actually. Because we're doing this episode on a Friday, and you and I once recorded a podcast weekly on the SB Nation NFL show on Fridays called TGI.
It was that one. Oh, okay. It wasn't called TGI.
Well,
that
was
it
the
called
most
TGI
recent
football?
edition.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Friday
Football Friday.
Yeah.
We changed it into TGI Football by its end, so we ended every episode by saying TGIF.
TGIF.